Anyway, please make yourself at home and get some rest. That day, I invited a shivering woman from the cold to my home. The woman, who looked so worn out, turned out to be stunningly beautiful after taking a bath, which really surprised me. Why was she in such a condition? She has a ring on, so she must be married, right? When I asked her about it, she told me she was in a difficult situation. Then, 7 days later, for some reason, a black luxury car was parked in front of my house, and she said, "I want to thank you. Will you accept $30 million? What? My name is Alex. After graduating from college, I got a job at a small company. It was during the recession, so my parents were thrilled that I managed to secure a job. They supported my future. However, that was probably the last time my family celebrated and laughed together. Shortly after I started my job, both my parents passed away. First, my father was diagnosed with cancer during a company health checkup. He passed away in just 3 months without even a chance to fight the disease, and my mother, shocked by his death, weakened and followed him soon after. Despite the continuous hardships, the one thing I felt grateful for was that my mother, on her deathbed, called out my father's name and smiled happily in her final moments. I'm sure my father came to take my suffering mother with him. They were truly a loving couple. Losing both parents within just 6 months was a shock, but I was fortunate with the company I worked for. Alex, don't push yourself too hard. Yes, take your time to recover. My seniors and boss at work were kind and considerate. Here, I made some stew yesterday. Have it for dinner. If you need anything, feel free to ask. My colleagues also reached out to me like that. The gaps in my heart from losing my parents were slowly filled by the friends who treated me like family. Supported by those around me, I was able to return to society. My parents were really a loving couple. That's why, when the time comes for me to marry, whether it's through an arranged marriage or dating, I want to cherish my wife. My father always treated my mother with utmost care. He was head over heels in love with her. He would dote on her even in public, to the point that their mutual friends called them the eternal newlyweds. It was a perfect description, though a bit embarrassing. My mother's whims were mostly indulged, and even as they aged, they never grew apart. And my mother always supported my father. But it wasn't like she always followed 3 steps behind or never contradicted him. In important moments, she stood behind him, quietly supporting him. I always thought their relationship was admirable. That's the ideal couple I aspire to be. Of course, I don't intend to impose this on my future wife. I envision a relationship where we help each other and consult on everything. With that being said, an ideal is just an ideal. As a newbie in the workforce living alone, I didn't have the time or opportunity to find a girlfriend. More than anything, I wanted to work hard and secure a stable income. With that in mind, I put my all into the tasks given to me each day. One day, as I started to get used to living alone, I headed home after work. Being glad that I finished my work, I was walking alone down a dark street. It was Friday, so I thought about having a drink and staying up late, like many other office workers might imagine. The same route home as always, with the same unchanging scenery. I thought such uneventful times were peaceful, without any drama happening. But that day, I realized that drama can suddenly strike without warning. Ha! I stopped in my tracks when I thought I saw a shadow in the park I usually pass by without a second glance. As I walked closer to the park and strained my eyes, I saw someone sitting on a bench along the street. The shadow definitely belonged to a woman, and she was dressed in a way that made me feel cold just by looking at her in this chilly weather. Moreover, her clothes looked dirty, as if they hadn't been cleaned in a while. Given the state of her clothes, she must be homeless. Still, it's unusual to see a homeless woman. Maybe it was my bias, but I thought women would try to somehow find a place to shelter, even if it meant enduring hardships. Women seem more concerned about how others perceive them. That's why seeing a woman sitting on a bench felt strange. Additionally, she looked young, and what caught my eye was the ring on her left hand, on her ring finger. It didn't look like a fashion ring. Judging by the position, it's either a wedding ring or an engagement ring. An engagement ring usually signifies one of the happiest times for a woman, right? I thought that the time leading up to being with the person you love is filled with happy thoughts, but maybe not. She seemed young, so even if it's a wedding ring, it should be a happy time for her. As I thought about it, I shook my head. Now is not the time to be thinking about such things. Before I knew it, I had walked into the park and was talking to the woman. "Excuse me, what are you doing here? It's dark and cold, and you seem underdressed. Are you okay?" When she looked up, her hair was in a terrible state too, and I realized she was in worse condition than I thought when watching from afar. This area isn't particularly dangerous, but it's not completely safe either. A young woman like you shouldn't be alone here. Actually, I don't have anywhere to go. Though she muttered her response, the ring on her finger indicated she had someone who gave it to her. That ring. Oh. At my words, she covered her left hand with her right. But since I had already seen it, I couldn't pretend I didn't know. I can't tell if it's a wedding ring or an engagement ring, but where is the person who gave it to you? Do they know you're in this situation? Despite my questions, the woman shrunk and fell silent. Even her reaction gave me a hint. She either had a falling out with her partner, or, in the worst case, they might have passed away. My parents had gone to heaven together, thinking of each other, but this woman might have been left behind alone. If that's the case, I know how it feels to be left behind, so I can't just ignore her. Would you like to come to my place? I apologize if I'm overstepping, but I just can't leave you like this. I swear, I'm not trying to do anything to you. I just want to help. I promise. It's really cold tonight, so please warm up at my place. Fortunately, the house my parents left me is small but has a room where you can rest safely. I emphasized that I wouldn't do anything to her, to reassure her. Even so, she still seemed hesitant and troubled. Oh, I can also prepare some food. Upon hearing this, her expression brightened immediately. She must not have eaten anything, as she quickly agreed to come with me. On the way home with the woman, I stopped by a store. I told her to buy some essentials like underwear and a shirt. I didn't want to risk getting reported by buying women's underwear myself. I handed her enough money to cover the expenses and waited outside the store. I figured she would feel more comfortable shopping alone and taking her time. Sorry to keep you waiting. Did you get everything? Alright, let's go. Once I saw her come out, I took the lead and guided her to my home. The house I live in now is the same one my parents lived in. I'm grateful that it's an owned property, so I can continue living there. The house itself isn't very big. It's a single-story wooden house with parking space for 2 cars, but I don't drive to work, so they were just sitting there. The woman seemed a bit surprised, but I opened the door without a second thought. Being an old house, the entrance was quite chilly. Please, come in. It's an old house, but... No, thank you for having me. She hesitantly stepped inside, so I brought out some slippers and turned on the hallway light. I headed straight to the bathroom and started filling the tub. Once the bathroom was slightly warmed, I prepared a guest bath towel and 2 new face towels. Is it okay if you use the women's shampoo my mother used to use? Sorry? You probably wouldn't want to use what I use. My mother was quite fashionable, so it shouldn't be too outdated. That's fine. I really appreciate all this. It's just me being a busybody. Please bear with it. She looked a bit confused, but I insisted she go ahead and take a bath. Please put the clothes you're wearing in a laundry net and toss it into the washing machine over there. I'll wash them while we eat. And you can hang them to dry later. Of course. I also feel uncomfortable hanging a young woman's underwear. She would likely feel more at ease hanging them herself. The towels are new. Please put them in the washing machine after use. Now, take your time. Thank you so much. Oh, do you have any food allergies or things you can't eat? No, I don't. I can eat anything. Startled by my question, the woman quickly replied. Her voice became gradually quieter, perhaps out of embarrassment. Got it. Now, please relax. I closed the wooden door to the dressing area. Hearing the sound of the glass door to the bathroom close, I headed to the kitchen. Thinking of something warm, I checked the bread I had baked this morning, then opened the fridge to see what ingredients I had. Living alone for a while, I had gotten pretty good at cooking for myself. While I couldn't make anything fancy, I quickly prepared pork steak and chicken and vegetable soup. Cooking for two instead of one felt unexpectedly pleasant. It seemed I had been feeling lonely only cooking for myself. To realize it in such a way was surprising. Just as I finished cooking, the woman came out of the bath. "Thank you for letting me use the bath." "Sure, come on over here." Seeing me trail off, she looked at me curiously. But that was understandable. The woman who emerged from the bath was stunningly beautiful. Is something wrong?" "No, sorry. For dinner, we only have pork steak, soup, and salad, but please help yourself." "That's more than enough." "Thank you." "I apologize, but the bread is what I baked this morning." "Not at all. It's a feast for me." With that exchange, we sat across from each other. The woman seemed relieved by the freshly made meal. We ate in silence, and she offered to do the dishes, so I took a quick shower in the meantime. Even a brief shower was enough to wash away the day's fatigue. As I towel-dried my hair and headed to the kitchen, she suddenly stood up and handed me a glass of iced tea, which I gratefully accepted. Thank you again. My name is Jennifer." Jennifer bowed her head politely as she introduced herself. "Thank you for being so courteous. My name is Alex." As I straightened up and introduced myself, Jennifer seemed to tense up a bit. "If you hadn't spoken to me, I don't know what I would have done." "Alex, you're my lifesaver." "No, it was just my meddling." "That meddling saved me." "A warm bath and a meal, it's been so long since I felt human." "It's the first time in days." "Since I'm already meddling, why don't you tell me what happened?" Of course, you don't have to. But talking might make you feel better." "I'm just a stranger, and sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger." At my suggestion, Jennifer looked up, glanced around, then nodded slightly. "I got married last year to some man. I'm currently a housewife." From the way she said it, I could tell her husband hadn't passed away. Before we got married, he was different, but once we started living together, he showed his true colors and started doing whatever he wanted. Oh. At first, I only suspected something was off because he came home late or had lots of business trips. But one day, I saw him with a young woman. Arm in arm, heading to a hotel. "You saw him cheating?" "Yes." Jennifer sniffled, and my heart ached for her. "When I confronted my husband about it, he. Jennifer? He started hitting me, pulling my hair and beating me." Jennifer covered her face with her hands, her body trembling. It was clear she had been enduring a lot of pain. "Have you talked to your family or the police?" Jennifer shook her head. "Do you know about domestic violence support centers? They can help you and connect you to other resources." "I know of them, but if he's been violent, they will definitely help. They can even arrange for a shelter where he'll never find you. You might not be able to contact your family or work, but your safety is the priority." "Oh, the phone number, it's easy to remember." Jennifer interrupted my rapid explanation. "Thank you for your concern, but I don't want to make a big deal out of this for my parents' sake. But your current situation is. My husband, my father chose him for me." Jennifer explained that her father had selected her husband, making it difficult to speak up. From what she said, it sounded like Jennifer came from a well-to-do family. Regardless, ensuring her safety was my top priority. "In that case, you should definitely talk to your father. Not just the support center." "Really? If your father finds out that the man he introduced to you is cheating and abusing his daughter, he'll be devastated." "I'm sorry to be blunt." "Jennifer, but did you grow up sheltered?" "Yes, I attended an all-girls school my whole life and was quite pampered, like a sheltered princess." Jennifer nodded as she spoke, which made me understand her slightly sheltered nature. She was cherished and protected, unaware of the world's harsh realities until now. Normally, people would first seek help from the police or their family. Whether her husband's background check was insufficient or he had been hiding his true nature, it's unclear. But she probably never even considered such possibilities from the start. I've been really naive, haven't I? It was an expensive lesson, but let's turn things around now. I don't know what to do. Why did I marry such a man? I couldn't answer that. But instead of dwelling on the past, she should focus on finding future happiness. When he started being violent, I didn't know what to do. I could only think of running away. Some people react that way. It might not solve the problem, but it provides temporary relief. And it's not wrong. The important thing is to take action, rather than just enduring the abuse. Yes, you are right. I sat next to Jennifer and gently patted her back as she nodded repeatedly. When I ran away, I didn't take my wallet or phone, so I couldn't eat properly for days. I see. I was so foolish, but I really didn't know what else to do. She finally broke down and cried. I handed her a towel. In times like this, it's best to let her cry it out. Her parents must love her dearly. They might have even filed a missing person report. That is, if her abusive husband mentioned her leaving. If he kept her disappearance quiet, it's hard to say what might happen. But he could probably cover it up for a few days. Even if you continue running away, your husband won't be able to hide it forever. Your parents will find out soon. Right. When your parents learn of your absence, they'll panic. Hearing it from someone else will be excruciating for them. That's true. So, if it's going to be known anyway, it might be best if you tell them everything yourself. They might be relieved to hear an SOS from their daughter. Jennifer seemed to realize something. You're right. Why didn't I think of that? You were overwhelmed in thinking about your parents' feelings. It clouded your judgment. That's all. Alex. I was the same way. When my father got sick, my mother also weakened from taking care of him. I tried desperately to cheer them up, but instead, I ended up making them worry about me. I remembered how many times they apologized, saying sorry to me. It was truly painful. In their final moments, both my father and mother told me, "We're glad you were our son." But alongside the joy, there was sadness. I wondered if I could have done more for them. I shared my regret with Jennifer. So it's not about being naive. It's about how much you care for your parents. That's a precious thing. Be proud of it. She quietly cried and said, "I'm glad I met you today," with a smile. That night, I offered Jennifer my mother's old bedroom, and I must have fallen asleep quickly out of exhaustion. When I woke up, Jennifer had prepared breakfast with what she found in the fridge. After having breakfast together, Jennifer thanked me, saying, "Thank you very much," and headed back to her parents with a smile. The whole experience felt like a whirlwind, and I went back to bed for a bit. About 7 days later. As I wondered what happened to Jennifer, on my way home, I saw a black luxury car parked in front of my house. Even though it's a quiet street, it was a bit of a nuisance. Just as I thought that, a man in an expensive-looking suit got out of the car. Startled by the gentleman with his silver hair neatly combed, I stopped in my tracks. When I looked directly at the gentleman standing in front of my house, he immediately softened his expression and smiled. "Excuse me, are you Alex?" Yes, and you are?" I didn't know anyone who would drive such a fancy car, so I answered cautiously. The gentleman nodded. "I'm Jennifer's father." "Oh. Thank you for being kind to my daughter the other day." He bowed deeply. It seemed he had something to discuss, so I cleared the car washing tools from the empty parking space to let him park. Despite the tight space, the driver skillfully parked the car without any trouble. I invited them inside and served them tea at the same kitchen table where I had welcomed Jennifer. The gentleman thanked me again with a warm smile. "Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am David, Jennifer's father. Nice to meet you, I'm Alex. Thank you for saving my daughter that day." After hearing her story, we took immediate action. "I'm here today to inform you of the outcome, as we owe you a great deal." "Thank you." I was worried about Jennifer too. Jennifer said you are a truly kind person. After that day, Jennifer got a divorce successfully. Although it was the expected outcome, I was surprised at how quickly it had been processed. We also received alimony. More importantly, her husband's parents formally apologized to us, saying, "We are deeply sorry for our son's behavior." David took a sip of his tea, pausing to compose himself. Her ex-husband was disowned immediately. I heard Jennifer was abused. Is she going to be okay? Fortunately, most of the injuries were superficial, so there won't be any lasting scars. But what if no one had noticed and the violence had escalated? I was relieved by his response, and I saw David smile gently. I am truly grateful to you. As a token of our gratitude. He placed a check on the table. When I saw the amount, I was stunned. Zeros, 1, 2, 3, 7. 7 zeros. Which means 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1 million, 10 million. $30 million? We would like you to accept this check of $30 million. What? The amount was so staggering that I froze, but I quickly shook my head. I can't accept this. I didn't help your daughter for money. Money is indeed necessary for living. But this isn't the right way to go about it. I pushed the check back towards him. Then, could you meet with my daughter again? Sorry? She seems to be uncomfortable around men because of that experience, but she said she would like to see you again. Oh, if that's the case. I was also concerned about Jennifer, so I agreed to meet her. We parted ways that day, but my reunion with Jennifer came sooner than expected. On the next weekend after Jennifer's father visited, Jennifer came to my house. Unlike before, she was dressed in a cute outfit and looked very beautiful. We went to an art museum and had a meal together. It was a lovely date, and I enjoyed the time very much. Jennifer still seemed to bear emotional scars, but she appeared to enjoy our meal together, which was a relief. So, when David offered the check, I was shocked by the amount of zeros. Oh no! My dad always tries to give people money like that, saying, I hope they'll be happy. Although she said it was troublesome, Jennifer seemed happy. From our conversation, I learned that Jennifer was the daughter of a large corporation I was familiar with. Wow, she's really out of my league. Despite this, as we spent more time together, I realized I had fallen for her. Even though I knew it might be futile, I couldn't stop my feelings. Knowing it might be pointless, I gathered my courage and confessed to her. If the wound is shallow, it won't hurt as much. Jennifer, I like you. I closed my eyes tightly, waiting for her response. I'm glad. I like you too, Alex. What? What do you mean, what? Are you sure? I'm just an ordinary office worker, and I don't have parents. That doesn't matter. It's you, Alex, who I like. Thanks to Jennifer's kindness, we got married a few years later. I'm from a regular family, so I don't know much about table manners. Will I be okay? That's not necessary. What's more important is valuing family. When I first met you, I saw how much you valued your parents. And I wanted to become family with someone like you. Maybe I was drawn to you because you also cherished your parents, just like I did. Let's be happy together. Yes, let's. On our wedding day, I placed my hands together in front of my parents' photo and made a vow in my heart. Today, I'm going to be happy with the person I love. We'll become the ideal couple like you and Mom. As I left the house, I felt as if my parents were pushing me forward, sending me off.